to get all that done. Hold on. I need to get my, hold on, I'll look. Bear with me, sorry. I had to get out of the screen and then get into my email so I could get the, here we are. Okay. We can start recording.
All set.
We're all ready? You have a quorum? Okay. This is a special meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission in the form of a meeting of the Plan of Conservation Development Subcommittee. Today is Thursday, June 27th, 2024. This is a virtual only meeting. I will start with the roll call. Commissioner Benton is not here. Commissioner Herring? Not here. Commissioner Nielsen?
Here.
Okay. Commissioner Radman?
Here.
Commissioner Turner is not here, and Commissioner Kriz is here, so we have a quorum. Commissioner Radman, you will be seated for Commissioner Turner. Okay. I just want to go back to the agenda, sorry. We have five agenda items, or four. First is POCD adoption timeline and discussion of the full POCD staff, the full POCD draft, excuse me. So I will turn it over to the consultants with SLR to kick this off. Over to you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Robert Collins with SLR. It's a pleasure to be in front of you again tonight. Sarah, as well as the SLR team that's here tonight, we have all been working very diligently to get the draft plan together for you. Sarah delivered that plan to you with within the last day or so. And so tonight, what we wanted to do is just get your review of that plan kicked off. We wanted to give you a quick preview. We have some specific questions for you that Sarah had kind of flagged in our fine-tuning of the actions and policies. We then want to kind of clarify your review period and then kind of talk about the schedule for July, August, and September. So with that, let's go to the next slide. So we previously had kind of talked real briefly with you about the layout of the plan, but now you actually have all of the pieces in front of you, and they are inserted into a template, InDesign template that starts to populate it with pictures, the graphs, the infographics, and things like that. So now is the time for you to look at it very carefully. The chapter review, again, you have looked at several of the chapters in initial draft format. In the document that's in front of you now, some of those sections like chapter 2, which is New Canaan Today, the community vision, and then chapters 4 through 7, which are the community theme areas that include the goals, strategies, and action policies. We did obviously work very closely with town staff and you to craft those chapters previously, but those chapters have also gone through a series of editing, including technical editing on our part. And now they're really kind of ready for like a final review by the subcommittee to see if we're going to be substantially complete at this point. Chapters that you previously have not looked at that you may want to focus on, just for your information, are the ones that aren't highlighted. So that would include chapter 1, which is just an introduction, kind of gives a background, as well as the state kind of mandates for why we do a POCD. The future land use plan, which is obviously a very crucial chapter, but that should be as expected. But obviously, we're looking forward to your detailed review of that, and we'll be prepared to answer questions and comments that you may have on that during your review period. And then lastly, the chapter 9 is the consistency with state plans, as well as the state plan and the regional plan. That should be pretty straightforward, and it's filled very robustly with a lot of actions and policies that prove that we are consistent with those plans. So that's pretty exciting. Appendices for the plan are not included at this draft stage because, one, the community profile and existing conditions inventory is an existing document that you previously looked at. So we didn't want to overload that full document. But if you need that during your review, if you're not able to put your hands on your copy of it pretty quickly, obviously we can coordinate with Sarah to make sure that you get a copy of that. The survey results report also will be Appendix B that was shared with you many months ago, but we can circulate another copy to you if you need it. And then finally, the implementation table is not included because we'll be working on that once we know that all the goals, strategies, policies, and actions are kind of locked down, and we'll be working on that with you and Sarah over the summer while it's the rest of the plan is in the final review stages. We do have some specific questions that are within the plan that Sarah kind of identified that we wanted to talk about with you. So with that, I will turn it over to the rest of the team and Sarah to kind of go through those with you.
Robert, so the first one, I'm sorry, the PDF is actually quite slow, but the first strategy we wanted to talk to you about was in chapter 4, strategy 1.1.2, action C. And actually, let me just pull up the Word document so you can look at that. Okay, so this is strategy 1.1.2, action C. So the strategy is to enhance towns' aesthetics through building, design, and natural landscapes to maintain New Canaan's historic New England village qualities. And then C, the action that we wanted your input on, was the suggestion to consider establishing a design review board to review development applications. Sarah, did you want to add any other background on that recommendation?
Sure. So, I mean, we received some conflicting feedback. I know Commissioner Chris and I had a lengthy conversation about his opinion that he wanted it removed, and then we received some positive feedback from the public about it. And personally, I don't think there's harm in having it in the plan, particularly since we're about to undertake a zoning regulation update. And as we've all learned recently, there are some items that planning and zoning are opining on that may or may not be consistent with case law. So I think we're looking for consensus. Should we get rid of it? Does it hurt to have it in the plan? So just need further consensus.
Okay. And it is written right now as consider, so it's not saying the town will establish a review board. It's just saying that you will consider it. So that's a softer action.
Yeah, I'm just worried about putting it in there to memorialize that request, and a couple of years down the line, someone asks, why wasn't it done? Everyone gets pointed to as to, well, you're not following what certain other towns do with either a DRB or an ARB. But we do have village district guidelines. We do have a historical district commission that review things that are happening in those specific areas, and we have guidelines for that downtown area. But we've never really had a design review board or ARB to consider the broader. I'm assuming you're referring to a DRB that reviews all applications or majority of applications.
So I mean,
think
that wasn't, because I was the one that had suggested this from the get-go. It was meant really to, to bolster the village district in particular, instead of it being the Planning and Zoning Commission, it being a review board that's, has
focused
better
on the village
expertise than the Planning and Zoning Commission.
and focused on the village, the
Yes,
downtown area specifically.
yeah,
Then we need to clarify that, if we're going to keep that in there. But I would also caution us, I think we should talk to the first selectman and possibly others in town, seeing if that additional commission and layer of bureaucracy in the town is necessarily desired. I know it's probably a request from the public. That doesn't necessarily mean we have to put it in there.
Yeah, so it sounds like you don't want it in there. I think that's what we're looking for. Instead of let's go talk to other people, is the consensus that you would prefer it to just not be in the plan?
Personally, I would. I think it's going to introduce a lot of other complicated issues and questions and timelines of establishing something like that as soon as that someone picks up that it's in there.
No, please, go ahead. Commissioner Nielsen, please.
I was just going to add a slightly different viewpoint on that. I mean, I don't personally have an issue with it being in there, but I'm not going to fight for it either way. What I do think is an issue is that section 6.12 of our zoning regulations, maybe I'm citing the wrong section, but the section that's about design review has been a problem. I think it is confusing. I mean, I think it's confusing to commissioners, and I think it's probably very confusing to the general public where the design village district design guidelines apply versus where those design guidelines that are in section 6.12, if that's the right section, apply. And there is reference in that section of our zoning regulations that we can or will have some sort of review board that will review applications. My understanding is we've only ever used it once. We hired a consultant, and I mean, this is before my time, but this is what I've heard. We weren't pleased with that. So anyway, regardless of how this shakes out, I think we need to clean that up and clarify what applies where and who makes the decision about, whether things are in conformance with either the village district design guidelines or our zoning regulations. So perhaps one compromise that maybe everyone can get around would be revising this to, instead of saying that we need to have this design review board, we could say we need to clarify our regulations in section whatever 6.12 and possibly, I don't even know if we need to say that, but by clarifying those regulations, we're going to have to figure out if we're going to go this route or not.
Yeah, I mean, we can defer to the village district guidelines, design guidelines. I mean, we do have that document. It exists. Why not use that and reference that and offer some clarification on its, boundaries of where it applies.
Okay, so we have action A right above that essentially does that. So it seems like for these purposes, we should just get rid of action C and call it a day.
Yeah.
I'm trying to zoom in to read action A.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that comment, is that I think the village district guidelines have been around a while. Maybe it's time for a refresh. I'll make that thought. Commissioner Radman is in agreement. And I think I don't want us to get into a review board issue on helping people design their garages or something. I don't want to go there.
Completely agree.
And also Commissioner Radman made an important comment, I think, in that I don't want to add another layer of bureaucracy to things if I can avoid it. And so I think the main focus has been discussed here is that the village district is really the core of what we want to think about, and doing a refresh on that, I think would address point C. So just drop C is my view.
Totally agreed. I mean, the town as a whole has a very broad range of architectural vernacular, from mid-century moderns to traditional, it's 16th, 17th century farmhouses, right? So
yeah,
it's a broad range that we don't necessarily, as a town, not just a zoning commission, we don't want to get into trying to regulate those. But in terms of the village district, and however we want to further clarify that in terms of specific zones or, an applicable map, a further clarified map, because now we're in the middle of these 830G applications, which are going to further expand the areas of interest for architectural design within the village, right? There's maybe a way we can finesse the language of the village district guidelines to maybe add something in there about, large scale development within the downtown area, quarter-mile radius, whatever it might be, half-mile radius, just to capture that type of development.
Yep, okay, I think we're all on the same page then about how to move forward with it, so. All good.
Sarah, just one quick question there.
Okay.
Is it clear what the responsibility is of the zoning board is with regard to the village guidelines? Because sometimes I feel like it's unclear as to whether.
So that's where, I trying to not get into our whole zoning regulation issue, but my problem with the village design guidelines is that you need site plan approval to alter your building in the village district, but our guidelines are not really rules, and site plans are all about you meet the rules, you get your approval. But if we have vague rules that are just kind of pictures of things that we like about downtown, where it's kind of a struggle of, are we staying in our lane with our site plan approval of the village district guidelines? Like, things need to be updated, and it does need to be clarified, which is where that design review board idea came into play. But it can be edited to just better clarify for P&Z. So that was a long-winded way of saying, no, I don't think it's clear.
Yeah, so I guess so where I was going with that is, I think we've had a couple applications where we'd say, oh, if you change that to a cedar roof, we'd approve it, where I feel like that is kind of a measure of taste versus a measure of regs. And so I think it, just the racy, what's our responsibility in that? So maybe add something like, further clarify village district guidelines and codify them and clarify, responsibilities.
Yeah, understood.
Or authority.
Okay.
There I know this is a little bit of an aside, but what do you see happening to section 6.12 of our regulations when we do a zoning? Does that go away? The part that references we can request the assistance of a design review committee?
I think we're really going to have to think more about that, because I didn't know about the instance where you all one time did hire a consultant and it didn't go well. So, that doesn't sound like a good track record. So, it's in the long list of things we have to evaluate. And
one in a row is not necessarily sort of a good test. So,
yeah,
right.
And it's saying you can do it and you must do it are different. So I like providing options. And so maybe it's an option we want to take, but I'm not sure we need to decide that here.
Okay. All right. So I think if we decide to do it, it's an option we'll take when we revise the regulations.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we need the policy guidance to support it, because we already have stuff in our current regulations that say we could do it. So it's just a matter of whether we choose to extrapolate that or not.
I think so.
Okay.
So moving on to the next topic. Okay.
Please.
So the next one, this is in chapter 5, under strategy 2.2.5, promote targeted, creative, and financially prudent housing incentives, policies, and partnerships that increase housing affordability within New Canaan. And we wanted to discuss the suggestion of action B, which is consider developing an affordable housing overlay district in which 100% of proposed units are protected as affordable housing.
So we're looking for more consensus on this, because I received some comments from a few commissioners, and one commissioner told me to remove it. One commissioner told me, this is great. I love this. So we need some sort of tiebreaker of, what are we doing with this?
Was this a recommendation? Look,
I just threw that in there as an idea.
okay.
So let's start with the defining our terms, sorry. Affordable housing overlay district means what?
So it means, that a developer or the town could rezone a property to this overlay district if they meet certain guidelines as further defined in this potential future zone, and they would get, certain density bonuses likely only if they're providing 100% affordable units that are protected in perpetuity.
So as an example, Sarah, let's say I'm just picking locations out of the air for illustrative purposes. That's not policy.
Yeah.
Let's say we say Cross Vidi. And so saying if someone comes to us, the Planning and Zoning Commission, saying I want to build a fully affordable 3-story apartment building on Cross Street. This is in the affordable housing overlay district that's already been established. They get to do it, maybe some additional density and some other benefits because of that. Is that what you're suggesting?
Essentially, the only difference is that we would clarify properties meeting certain standards, whether it's lot size or they have to be on sewer, are eligible to rezone to this overlay. So it's not that the property would already be in the zone. It would be, hey, we comply with your requirements. We want to rezone, which will give us the special permit right to build X, Y, and Z.
So what I understand you correctly, stop me, is that if we have an affordable housing overlay district, it's essentially saying build it here. In effect, we're trying to point them in this one direction. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
To a point,
I'm happy to be wrong.
It's really up to the commission how vague or not vague you want it to be. You could say it has to be parcels in the sewer district that are at least 5 acres in area, or it could just be parcels that are 5 acres in area. It would be really up to the commission.
Commissioners, any thoughts on this you want to share?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. Krista, as part of the Affordable Housing Committee, has an overlay district been discussed?
I just don't think we're there yet. We have had a lot of conversations about, I shouldn't say we've had a lot of conversations. It has been alluded to several times with speakers that we've had, including like Jeremy Ginsburg, who's the town planner for Darien, Margarita Alvin, who's the chair of the Greenwich Planning and Zoning Commission, that there are zoning solutions or zoning options that New Canaan hasn't taken advantage of yet to enhance the town's ability to obtain and retain affordable housing. And I think that at some point that the Affordable Housing Committee will go there and start to really talk about that. So no, this specifically hasn't been recommended. I don't know. I mean, to me, I don't think that it would be something that's out of the realm of possibilities, but I guess if it makes those who are uncomfortable with this statement more comfortable, I'd be fine with going with a more generic statement that says, like, look at zoning options to further support, incentivize affordable housing, such as an overlay district. I mean, there's any number of ways.
Yeah, the other couple comments I have on this is, even if we were to establish an affordable housing overlay district, that does not, and I'm trying to be, I guess, positive about that type of a move, we would think that would help us control and steer where that development happens. Obviously, that's the intent of that. But the reality of 830G is that overlay district don't mean shit, right?
So the intent to me is more to help the town make sure that what they're building is consistent. Not necessarily, because no developer, I think realistically, would ever utilize 100% affordable overlay.
Well, that's the thing. That was my next point is
it was more consistency for the town.
Okay, because that was my next point. There is not a single builder out there who's going to do 100% affordable. Yeah. They're losing money on 30% affordable, let alone anything greater.
Yeah, so I mean, really, this was meant to just throw out, that you know, we do need some sort of zoning solution for affordable housing for the town to be able to build it. And I didn't want to go so vague so that then a developer could come in and say, oh, they want to change their zoning to facilitate some affordable housing. Like I wanted it to be clear what part of our zoning that you want to.
Yeah,
So Sarah, really this would replace then like what we have done historically, which everybody knows I hate, which is the Canaan Parish zoning district and the Millport zoning district. Instead of doing it each project by project, the town would have a more generic, perhaps zoning overlay district that they could use for the next type of Canaan Parish situation.
Correct.
But how would that apply? I'm just playing devil's advocate here. You know, for example, I drove down River Road, which, you know, goes from the dump and ties back into Main Street. And there's on the riverside, obviously, along the riverside, there's a whole series of duplex
families, yeah, zero lot line product.
Right. If that, you know, if a developer came in there, they could effectively buy those 3 or 4 lots that have 2 homes on them each and redevelop that into a much denser housing solution, but it wouldn't fall, well, it might not fall into our overlay district. So
I mean, those properties in particular, the only way that they would be able to redevelop it denser is through 830G. You know, there's no mechanism in the zoning regulations for them to do that. So, you know, again, this says consider.
Would this overlay district provide that mechanism?
If they did 100% affordable.
I understand Commissioner Nielsen's dislike for sort of these case-by-case bespoke solutions, but I wonder whether that in effect is what's going to end up happening going forward anyway. And that, you know, if the town in its infinite wisdom decided that, well, we can buy these 8 you know, 0 lot line townhouses, tear them down, it's on the sewer, it's on town water, we can build a smaller development there. They'd come to P&Z and we'd decide to rezone. Is probably, I think, what would happen. I'm not necessarily against that. I'm not for it, but I can see that happen.
So again, you know, this says consider. So like the conversation that we've been having, that's what the POCD is recommending that we do. But you know, if it's, you know, if you guys just think it's not even worth considering, then we should remove it. But if, you know, if it's worth a conversation, having this in the plan to me doesn't hurt anyone, doesn't put us on the hook to include this in the regulations.
No, I see your point. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, the point is really to provide a justification for the town to go into a certain area and be able to do 100% affordable without, you know, with some validity to it and being able to justify it as well. We're going to do 100% affordable in this particular, let's take the example at River Road. It's not a particular zone district, but if the town wants to buy those 6 properties or whatever there is and build 100% affordable, it could.
Yeah, and you know, again, the point would be maybe, you know, the town, like you make the regulation max for 4 stories, but that doesn't make sense in an area. You don't have to do max 4 stories. If it makes sense to only do 2.5, you know, that the town doesn't have to do 4, but then you could rezone to this overlay.
Yep.
And then, you know, maybe it's site plan approval instead of special permit, just to make it easier for the town to do what they need to do.
Well, also, we're mentioning the town, and it's been proposed in Hartford that the ability of various housing authorities in different towns can build in neighboring towns within a certain radius. And so if we have this, we might have, if such a law passed, we may find a housing authority that's not the New Canaan Housing Authority decide to take advantage of it and build a very large building. It may be little unlikely, but you're never quite sure what's going to happen with Hartford.
I mean, I would just say the economics of it, even if that were to come to fruition, I don't know economically for what housing authority it would make sense in New Canaan.
Yeah, they're going to go where the land's a little cheaper than here.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. I think it's a good option.
It's fine.
I
Okay,
think it's fine. I think the 100% is the thing that just knocks
Yeah.
me. It's that if I would just remove the 100% because, you know,
my
I mean, if
only,
you want to, because you want to go and like if the town wants to go buy a property up on Weed that's 3 acres, and because instead of assembling 5 different properties on River, they go up on Weed and find a big 3-acre property and build affordable housing there that's on the sewer, then that's fine. It's basically the sewer district is the overlay district.
no, I'll just challenge you a bit. If we get rid of the 100%, does that sound like 830G to you?
Good.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I like the 100% in there.
I do too, and even if I have 100% of units, for example, if it were someone in the downtown area, you still could have grade retail and then units above it. And so it talks about housing units, not necessarily the entire property, which I wouldn't be against.
You could say residential units, I guess, if you want to do ground floor retail, proposed
I think
residential units.
I think that's a good suggestion, Commissioner Herring. Just say residential units, housing units.
Mhm.
It's more specific. It's implied, but I think that's good to be more specific. It's a good idea, I think.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
okay
okay with
keeping
it.
it.
So I rescind my challenge.
Mhm.
I wasn't sure if it just added an extra layer of complexity necessarily.
I understand like what you're saying, and when we evaluate this, 75% may make more sense or something like that. So I definitely see your point.
If I can make a suggestion, we keep it, and between the word proposed and the word units, we say housing units and leave it at that. Fair enough?
Perfect.
Mhm.
Um,
Done and dusted.
So the last one. 7, strategy for action. So this strategy is to enhance wireless communication coverage and reliability for residents, visitors, and first responders. And the action that we wanted to discuss is okay. Taylor, was this the research alternative methods to increase wireless coverage that avoids cell towers?
Yeah, and I believe Sarah can probably detail this more, but I think the thought behind this was there was a lot of public feedback about taking a stance on the on locating any of these type of facilities on school properties. There was a lot of feedback, saying that the town needs to take a stance on that to be more direct. And I think we needed to understand if that's something you want to do or leave that to another portion of the town.
Yes, that's Taylor summed it up pretty well. We did receive many letters from members of the public about putting in language that says that avoids locating cell towers on school property.
Shocker.
Yeah, I will say I would suggest that as a practical matter, locating them on or very close to school property is an idea that is dead on arrival in New Canaan, for better or worse, is my take
Except for
on
the fact that the water tower at the high school has probably the most antennas of any building in the world. But
I would agree with that.
which is
that is
dead set
factually
in the
true.
middle of our high school.
Have we
Rules
run
will
this
not
past
quite
the
dead
on
utilities
arrival.
commission?
We ran, I did not ask this question of the Utilities Commission. This came up after I met with them. I can,
Yeah, I mean, to me, that like, I don't know that we're in a position, I mean, we have our opinion certainly, but I don't know that we're in a position to say one way or another. Like, I don't know where the Utilities Commission is heading, and I honestly don't know where the political, elected officials are heading on this one. So I would kind of defer to the people that are working on this as opposed to ourselves.
okay,
Right.
and I mean, when this last came through to the commission as an 824, you all ruled that cell towers, may be needed, but it's really not the purview of P&Z to determine the health risks and whatnot. So, if you all are comfortable, we could just leave it as is. If you still agree with that
Yeah,
stance.
What do
I'm
people think?
I'm more comfortable excluding that. Like,
Okay.
I don't feel comfortable taking a political, I think it's a pretty political comment.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
honestly,
it's a hot potato for sure.
Okay. Understood. But I'll confirm with the Utilities Commission as well.
I think that's smart.
And we do have, that's the top policy there, is supporting the Utilities Commission for this strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So anything else you wanted to touch on, Sarah, before I go into like comment period?
No, those were
Schedule.
the only three that we really needed consensus on.
Okay. Um, Commission.
I had one question. On page 15, the
Sure.
protected, where we talk about home values and affordable units, household composition on 14, et cetera, but on 15, protected affordable units, is that the correct number currently, 295?
It should be.
That's that's the 2023 numbers from the
So that,
state.
yes. Yep.
So that includes Canaan Parish.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
The only
With-
other, well, request, and this is strictly my anal architect side of me. Can we change the font on the cover page and on the headers of some of these pages? It's this like funky serifed font.
Thank you.
I don't know the
I
name,
agree.
but it's just to be completely honest, it doesn't look very professional. So and same thing with like the colors on the contents page, where preserve New Canaan's welcoming is pink, and then promote creative balance. I mean, we don't really need to do that.
Thank you, Commissioner Redmond. I did not like the font either. I would suggest you may want to look at the metal sign that's for the town hall that says Town of New Canaan established, etc. That's maybe something for the front cover. But yeah, I don't get this font either.
That also replies to every page as, you know, the header and footer in that.
Yes.
So that would change too.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, and then in terms of the color scheme, we do like to just have different colors for different sections. Are there certain colors that you would prefer?
Not so bright, is that the issue?
I guess.
We're more of a beige town, I think.
Do we really need colors for the table of contents?
Yeah.
Well, those colors just match the colors of those chapters because they are
Yeah.
color coded. So that's why, I mean, in the table of contents, it could just be black, but that's the only reason why that is. It was just a connection to the colors. You know, that's kind of a standard thing for the theme areas, each to have kind of their own unique color. But we could certainly work with Sarah to get, you know, I mean, I think that's kind of, you know, this is the first time you've kind of seen the template or the document. We knew you would have comments on that. Those are obviously like non-substantive comments, but they're important. In your review of the document over the next couple of weeks, which is one of the things we want to talk with you about to determine how much time you want. You know, we could determine if everybody wants to have the font style changes and the colors changes, you could give some suggestions, and then we could talk about that on the next meeting. And then, you know, we could also work with Sarah very closely to kind of maybe determine what might be a more appropriate or desired font and colors for those sections.
I'm more of a Baskerville and Helvetia guy as far as fonts. I think using modified Helvetia for the main text here, sans serif. But that's me. But I would agree with Commissioner Redmond. The text, the font on the front page, front cover, just kind of left me a bit cold.
Okay, well, we
definitely
obviously will
should start.
take note of that now, and we can work with Sarah to try to get that corrected soon, but during your week or so review, if there's any specific suggestions that you want to make for a font style that you'd like to use, please forward that on.
Commissioner Nielsen, Commissioner Herring, any comments you want to share on the fonts?
Not
No, I
at this time.
defer.
You defer, okay.
Yeah, I'm easy to please. Something sans serif, either Helvetica or Arial, is fine with me.
Keep it classic. Okay, so I'm just gonna go back to PowerPoint and go over next steps.
Yeah, we did want to kind of clarify. Sarah had suggested that in getting you the document yesterday, and then we you now are starting your more in-depth review. Sarah had suggested that the subcommittee come back together on July 11th and kind of have completed your review of all the substantive pieces at that point. So I think the first thing we wanted to do is kind of confirm with you if that's enough time for you to review the document, or if you feel that you need more or less time. And then, the July 11th meeting, if we did come together at that time, we would want to get all of your comments that you have on substantive items at a minimum, so that we could then discuss them and then decide if we make all of those substantive changes, and we can clarify what would be substantive and what wouldn't be, if then the plan would be considered substantially complete. And then that would mean that in making those edits that you suggested, that we could then move into the 65-day review period, which would allow us then some time to continue working on non-substantive changes like map refinement, picture refinements, color refinements, those types of things. I just wanted to make it clear that to consider the plan substantially complete, it would not necessarily mean that every picture would have to be in place, because those are things that we can be working on and fine-tuning once we know that all the text, and most specifically chapters 4 through 7, and then also 8, which is the future land use chapter, are kind of in a complete stage from your perspective as far as what you want to share with the public, WestCog, and then also the town council. So any thoughts about the July 11th date, and if that's enough time to look at the substantive items of the document?
Commissioners, thoughts?
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I'm okay with that timeline.
Okay.
Are people available on the 11th?
No,
I was gonna s-
but I can send
um,
you an email by the 11th.
Are there maybe?
Can I
Please go ahead, Commissioner.
can I ask one more question about like just reviewing? So first of all, I think the plan's come a long way. One of the questions that came to mind for me in reviewing the actions, and this is maybe an overarching comment, is goes back to that sort of responsibility question and timeline. So a lot of these actions call for, establishing this or pursuing that. What's sort of implicit in the timeline or the responsibility of that? So if it says like the Utilities Commission should pursue exploring a cell phone tower on this street, that's an action item in the POCD. So is there an overarching like guidance as to, okay, this is something that we write down that, is the utilities team's responsibility to execute against in X amount of time, or like where are the
Yes.
teeth, I guess, on that?
Yeah, that's going to be Appendix C, the implementation table. And then that's what we're
Okay.
going to be working on. Sarah's going to be working on that pretty, initially, once you all have said, okay, the actions and policies are now substantially complete. So for instance, after July 11th, if that was determined at that date, the first step would be to incorporate any of those final comments. And then Sarah would we would probably, with you at the July 11th date, we would determine the actual date that it would be transmitted to WestCog and to the town council. In other words, like about a week later, just so that we would have enough time to make some of those changes that you might request on the 11th. And
Yeah.
then we also would want to pick the after the 65-day period, which at that point we would know exactly what that date is, which would be in late September, and then we could pick the public hearing date for late September or early October. What we would do after Sarah has gotten that, that taken care of and those that sent out is in late July and August, we would work with you very carefully. We would take all of the action steps and put them into a table, a matrix table. And then we would start to work with Sarah to identify the responsible entities for each one of the actions, assisting entities for each one of the actions, and then whether that action is a short-term, medium-term, or long-term goal of the plan. Those are the minimums that we would want to include in the implementation table. There could be some other things. And I think after we take that initial draft of that, we probably would then circulate that with the subcommittee for your concurrence. We could also have a virtual meeting to discuss
Okay.
in more detail, but that would be coming in the summer.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you, Robert. Because I was trying to understand, one of the things I was thinking about was, does the order of the actions have any consequence? Is it A, B, or C, D, and is it a stack
Yeah.
ranked order, or is it just
Right.
happenstance? But it sounds like the implementation table will kind of highlight, okay,
Right.
is it a number one
We'll
priority,
clarify
2,
that, yeah.
3, and then is it big, little, or small? So,
Right.
okay.
And Sarah will have to work, anything that's not like where the Planning and Zoning Commission is not the primary responsible party. We'll have to, she'll have to make sure that that's kind of talked about amongst the, other commissions or town staff to make sure that, the time frame that's being suggested is within their acceptance.
Yeah.
And that's really the last most significant piece of the plan that would then has to still be done. That would
It
be
does sound significant, and that Sarah's going to have to walk to the town council and say that you have to do this, this, and this, and this by this timeline. I look forward to that.
Good times. If I may make a suggestion, commissioners, I would like to have as many members of the subcommittee attending the next meeting as possible. And so if I can make a suggestion to Sarah, if you're in agreement, that perhaps the Wednesday and Thursday, or the 10th and 11th, that's a Wednesday and Thursday of that week, and maybe the Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday of the next week, we could see what people are available. I'm not sure what the situation is for Commissioners Benton and Turner. And then we can sort of pick a date. If we can't get the town council room, I'm sure we can get the board room, which should be more than adequate. But
I do want to just, and I mean,
Yeah.
it is if we can't make it, but the town council, their July meeting is on July 17th, and then they don't meet again until mid-September. So, we're issuing it to them for 65 days to make a positive or negative report. So ideally, like in a perfect world, this is substantially complete before July 17th, so I can go to that meeting and hand them a substantially complete plan, so they at least have it. Even if it's on the 16th that you all agree it's substantially complete, ideally making it before their meeting, just because otherwise they don't meet till the end of the 65-day comment period.
I'm in agreement with that. But I'm just suggesting maybe you want to put some English on the date, move it up a day or 1 or 2 days, ensure we can get as many people as possible and still make the deadline, Sarah, that you mentioned, which seems to be a very important one. Is that okay with people? We'll do a poll, see what happens.
Fine.
So the 10th and the 11th, we can get the town meeting room, no problem.
One thing I also wanted to mention is obviously, as you're actively reviewing it, again, you might want to make notes of action items or things within the future land use plan that are substantive that you want to bring forward, and then maybe start to make note of non-substantive questions or ideas or issues that you have, maybe kind of separate them out so that we can make the 11th more clear on what do we have to make the plan substantially complete and which things can we be reviewing over the summer. So it might be helpful if you're kind of dividing your comments into like those two categories. And then another one that we talked about a month or so ago, and I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to consider, is that, you all are a subcommittee of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And, we know that at the final public hearing, it will have to be going in front of the full Planning and Zoning Commission. And in order to determine the plan is substantially complete, do you all have the comfortability in saying that, or does it need to be the full Planning and Zoning Commission on July 11th? Even though that's not the final say.
Well, I think that's a great question. I mean, my point of view there is that, like, at this level of maturity, these chapters, I feel like this is where, and I defer to John or to Commissioner Chris on this, but I can imagine, looping in a few of our extra, commissioners at this stage to begin exposure to it so that they could get a level of comfort on some of these elements without necessarily pulling them in too deeply. And that way we're not too waylaid at that point. Catching them up, I don't know, just an idea. I don't think that'll slow us down now, but I just thought given that approval state, I want them to feel comfortable that they have enough time to think about these things.
Commissioner Redmond, you're chairman of the full commission. What are your thoughts on bringing the rest of our colleagues in? You're on mute, Dan.
I'm just worried about timing relative to the town council, threshold that we're establishing to trying to get it into their hands by the 17th.
I mean, it's also, how do you pick which commissioners to loop in?
Yeah, it has to be everybody.
It has to be,
Just pick and choose.
it has to be everybody, but I mean, I'm assuming.
I mean, you
that
guys are
it
6
goes
of the
to-
12. You're 6 commissioners out of the 12-person commission.
I would have no problem with providing it to the entire commission so that, as Mr. Herring said, they have a sense of what it says, but I wouldn't rely on the larger group to determine it's substantially complete at this point.
Yeah, but also we have to be clear about what we're asking for, right? Once we get substantially complete with this by second week of July and it goes to town council for their review and comment, then am I correct? That's when the 65-day period starts, is after that?
Yeah.
And during that 65-day period, there's obviously, as Bob or Robert, what do you prefer?
Robert.
Robert. So as Robert was mentioning, there's still going to be finessing of the package, some images going in, some probably some graphical stuff and maybe some text clarifications or whatever else is going on. There's no reason that at the same time we hand it to the town council, we can't share it with the rest of our commissioners. Do we have to do it as an informal meeting, or can we just share it and ask for input? Again, we're not looking for them to rewrite the guideline. We're looking for them to peruse it and tell us what they think.
I mean, I don't see why I can't, send it to them at the July 30 meeting, similar to what I did at the meeting on Tuesday. Just FYI, this is where we're at in the process. If you have comments, let me know. And, just do it that way.
I think the assumption is also that you guys were entrusted to work on the plan,
Yeah.
and that they should be believing in your, experience that you've had to getting it to that point. And then in the summer, you could have a review meeting or a workshop with the full commission to kind of go through it, to kind of share it and explain it all to the rest of the commission.
I would send it to the rest of the commission as an email attachment to review on the 16th or 15th or 17th, whenever you send it to the town council, same time. You're going to give town council some deadline for providing comments. We could give. What?
Yeah. So essentially what's going to happen is on the 17th, I'm going to go to the town council meeting and give them a heads up, and then they have 65 days. That's the
Right.
statute.
But as
To give us comments or not.
But as far as the the rest of the Planning and Zoning Commission, obviously, they don't need 65 days. We can give them a different deadline, whether that be here it's July 15th, by July 30th, when we have, or 31st, whatever the meeting is, 2 weeks away, two weeks
Yeah.
away. Can you please give us some comments? I think that will be more than enough time to get some feedback.
I would also note that, you know, we sent to them in, let's say, mid-July, same time as the town council. You know, we have regular meetings. We would have one in July and one in August. We can, Dan, you can, or P&Z Chairman Radman, you could add this as as an agenda item and say, you know, discuss the current draft of the POCD for with a full commission to give them an opportunity to chat before. That's a
I mean,
possibility.
The only thing is July 30, we're not gonna have time for a full-blown discussion. I think, you know,
No,
I can
yeah.
do an FYI, but
Okay, no, fair enough.
we don't have time for a full discussion, unfortunately.
We might be able to squeeze something in at the August meeting, but July is going to be jammed.
I don't know about August, so we shouldn't make
Either.
promises.
Oh, okay.
What I'm hearing, though, is that at the time that the plan is shared with the town council, which would be substantively finished, we hope, it would also be sent in a direct email to other members of the Planning and Zoning Commission with a cover note saying, this is where we are. We'll eventually come to the full commission. If you have any thoughts or comments on this, please share them with the subcommittee. You know, our door is open, something along those lines.
Yep.
Correct.
That we're in agreement on this? Everyone okay with that?
Yes.
You're getting a thumbs up from Commissioner Nielsen? Fair enough. Okay, we will do that.
Okay, great. Well, that's very exciting. We're, like I said, we're almost at the finish line. So, you know, thank you for the initial feedback on the plan. We will start to work on some of those initial edits and stuff that we talked about with Sarah. So that already starts to be in the plan for July 11th. If you get your comments and you've reviewed it, please forward them as soon as you can to Sarah, but at a minimum, you know, maybe the day before the 11th. And then we'll look forward to seeing everybody on July 11th to kind of confirm if everything is in place with some, you know, potential adjustments. But
Yeah,
happy-
and maybe not
happy
July
reading.
11th, but around July.
yeah,
And Sarah will let us know about that date.
yeah, if that date's not good. Yeah, somewhere approximately.
Mhm.
Any final thoughts for SLR or questions before I'm sure they want to break from subcommittee members?
Nope.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
sure. Well, happy reading, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon. And any questions about the process, don't hesitate to reach out to Sarah, who can talk with me, and we can keep you all posted.
Great.
Okay,
Excellent.
well,
Thank you.
good luck. Enjoy looking at all the pictures. And we look forward to hearing the final results of the pictures.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
Thank you.
Good night. Okay, Chris dropped off. I think he thought the
You wanted a break too?
he did. Okay, so I'll be really quick with the photos. This is more just a
Should I
FYI.
tell Chris to join back in?
Yeah.
Yeah, hang on.
Okay, so Krista, you're a no for the 11th and the 10th, it sounds like. Dan, are you around on the 11th?
I'm around on the 11th, but the following week, that Monday and Tuesday is better, but I can make 11th work.
And then John, you're muted.
Things like the 11th is doable, but not preferred. Similar to Dan, I'm better on the Monday or Tuesday the following week. But
Okay,
I can do the Thursday. I can do the Wednesday too of the day before the 10th. I can do that.
Okay, so I mean, I guess, you know, for me, and you may not know, but how
By the
confident
way, who is Teresa Pianco?
she's a member of the public.
Oh, okay.
So are you all confident? And you may not know that you will find it substantially complete because, you know, like I have to schedule with the town council ahead of time, so it's just like a little, awkward if it's not substantially complete and then, do I go to the July 17th meeting or not? And, I don't want to rush you all. And push us faster than we are, but. And just having a
Commissioners?
meeting 2 days before their meeting, is that cutting it too close? Because we can do that Monday.
Well, what's the alternative? If we don't, and we don't give it to them on the 17th or before the 17th,
So
then
then
we're-
the alternative is the 65-day comment period is the same. It's just they really are only having one meeting during that whole 65-day comment period versus it's technically 2, but no one's probably reading it. If I send it to them on the 16th, no one's reading it on before the 17th anyway.
but if you send it to them on the 30th, then what?
On the 30th of July, then the 65-day comment period doesn't end until October, then we're in November by the time we adopt it, and we're just getting really, really close to
So I
not
think,
meeting the deadline.
we all have to do our best to try and get you comments as quickly as possible and shoot to do this meeting and at a minimum, hand it to them, I would say by the 15th. Hand them the draft by the 15th and they'll have their meeting on the 17th and the 65-day timeline clock starts.
Okay,
Yeah, I think this is our 4th of July long weekend project.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
guys.
Is my guess realistically.
So
It's
Chris,
okay. It's pretty well there. I mean, it's a really
Yeah.
good document. It's a good package, so.
So
But
Chris, do you have a preference of July 11th or the Monday after?
I don't think so. I'm actually on vacation now, so I will be back in town.
What? You look like you're at the office.
that's the background everyone has, yeah.
Oh,
Oracle, that's what it says in
you
the back.
guys,
Oracle.
you guys figured me out. My deep fake did not work today.
No. Didn't you see that? Didn't you see the disclaimer on Zoom when you logged in about AI
Yeah.
generation and all that?
Ouch.
I'm actually 85 and no, so the 11th or the 15th are fine.
Okay, so preference,
Why don't we go with the 11th? I would suggest, Sarah, you be in contact with Commissioners Benton and
I will.
of their situation. If they are hard no on the 11th, maybe you could send around a survey of other availability, but assuming they're okay, we'll go with the 11th if that's agreeable. Okay, I'm getting a nod, 2
Yep,
nods.
right here.
Okay,
Okay,
I can't be at any of them, so that's why I'm not
any of
nodding.
them, so okay.
it is what it
Well,
is.
that
But
answers that.
you can get your comments to me before and then hopefully.
Right.
Okay, okay. So now moving on to the photos. Very quickly. One sec. And this is more just a FYI. So basically what we ended up doing was staff, meaning Stephen and I, went through the about 115 photo submissions that we got. We picked our top 10 just of diversity, just because, we got a lot of photos of the same things, a lot of Waveney, a lot of Mead Park, a lot of Irwin Park. And then we kind of narrowed down our top 10 that could be potential cover photos for the plan. And then we're thinking you all will vote for your favorite for the cover. And then the other 9 would just be the chapter cover photos. It worked out perfectly because there are 9 chapters to the plan. Overall, of the 116, there are like 50 or 60 that we were able to sift through that weren't duplicates and that were of good enough photo quality to, and that meaning like resolution wise to make sense in the plan. So I will send this PDF to you all tomorrow morning, so you have time to actually look through the top 10 photos. And then I'm just asking that before July 4th, email me your top 3 and please rank them. So like photo A is your favorite, photo B is your second favorite, etc. And then I'll tally up the votes. And there should be no ties that way, and then we'll have our favorite, as the winner for the cover photo, and then we'll figure out logistics later on about, how we notify the winner and, if we do anything for them at like the final adoption hearing or whatnot. Any questions? I'll quickly show you guys all 10 photos and then we'll wrap up. No questions? Cool.
Shoot.
Okay, so this is one of them, red schoolhouse antique fire truck, pretty cool.
That's cool.
This is the train station, just a nice artistic angle of it. Waveney at sunset in the fall, very nice photo. Waveney house in the winter. The fountain in Waveney, we got a lot of Waveney photos if you didn't guess by now. Another Waveney photo. This is the Waveney fireworks. Cool photo. Butterfly. Garden photo. Nice rainbow over Waveney. And then my computer has frozen. Where was that? Okay, that might be the last one. Let me see. Okay, yeah, that was the last photo. So I will send that all to you in a PDF, and then just send me your votes by July 4 so I can tell SLR which one to put on the cover.
So the way the photos are in this draft document now, they're just kind of random. Like this isn't.
That's just how they were submitted. Yeah.
Got it. So we don't. It's not like the cover is the cover as it is. We can choose a different cover. Is what you're saying?
Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
We just put in filler for now, and what we thought was our favorite photo, but
We designed the cover for them.
you can.
And the typeface. too.
What I plan- what I
That's
plan to do-
non-substantial though. Don't worry about that right now. We need substantial comments for now. We'll worry about the aesthetics after.
Fair enough.
All right. That's all I have.
Okay. Agenda item number 3, any other business that may come before the subcommittee? Anything else?
Can
to
I ask
discuss?
a really old person question? Sarah, is it possible to get a printed copy of the POCD to like redline, or do I have to try and do this on a computer?
Oh, the whippersnappers.
So I mean, we got I sent you all Word docs, but if that's not enough, I can print you one at the office.
It's a Word document? Mine opened as a PDF.
So I in the email I sent you all a zip file of Word documents of each chapter.
Oh, okay.
Do that, or like at the office I can print you a paper copy.
Oh, I see. I clicked the link. I didn't unzip. All right. Got it. All right, I'll figure it out. I can do Word. I just can't really edit PDF very well.
Understood.
I don't think anyone can. They said they can. I don't know how to do it. So,
Mhm.
any other business on point 3, the agenda item? Okay. Point 4, approval of minutes. Did everyone have a chance to read and review the minutes?
Yes, I move to approve.
Okay. Commissioner Nielsen has moved to approve. Do I have a second?
I can't.
Anyone?
I was not at the previous meeting, so.
Chris, that only leaves you. You gotta unmute yourself. You're still muted. We can't hear you.
Okay, I had to clear the tables. I will second that,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna
Any-
go back on mute.
Any further, wait, hang on, we gotta vote. Any further discussion? No, okay. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Commissioner Herring?
Aye.
Okay,
yes.
passed unanimously. That is the last item. We will see you on the 11th unless we have an email from Sarah that there's some issues with the 11th.
Yep.
And enjoy your long weekend reviewing all these documents.